What's going on, guys? Welcome to today's Q&A. I'm going to overlap footage from the last squat session of the week, which is currently today, which I've just done. That's why I've got chalk all over my back, so I'm doing this as raw as you can. The footage is just 265 kilos for 4 sets of 4. Then after that I had 4 sets of 8 in pull-ups and a little bit of core work. But I didn't film any accessories, so just chuck over a little bit of squat footage to try and hopefully keep your attention and keep you interested. So again, as always, go through 6 questions, however long it takes, and if you've got any questions, drop them down below and I'll just add them to the list. I have got about maybe 3 more Q&A sorted, but definitely need questions incoming constantly, so if you've got some questions, drop them below. So the first question is, when should you upgrade your lifting gear? I would say upgrade your lifting gear when you know you are going to be sticking with your lifting. So for example, no matter what your progression is, having an injury belt is always going to be a positive thing for you if you are a competitive powerlifter. If you're not a competitive powerlifter or a competitive strength athlete, and I do not include bodybuilders in that, I would not suggest getting a belt, as it's really not needed. If you're a competitive strength athlete, i.e. a weightlifter, but most weightlifters don't even really use belts, and if they do, they're rubbish wee ones. If you're a powerlifter or a strongman, I would recommend getting a good belt. So I would recommend getting one when you know you're going to stick with the sport and you're in it for the long term, so you know you'll get your investment back and you're not wasting money. Okay, so if I was offered to deadlift with Omar Rusev and Silent Mike as a pink Power Ranger, would you? Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that me as a pink Power Ranger would go very, very well with Omar as green and Silent Mike as red. But unfortunately, I think that the pink Power Ranger just looks a little bit too good for the green and red, so I'm not sure if they'd be too happy with that. But yeah, absolutely. Okay, so next question. How to train around knee tendonitis? Well, it depends how bad it is. So, if you are, again, a competitive powerlifter and you're relatively advanced in it, and you are, for example, let's say you're in competition prep and you're going through a deliberate overreaching phase, and quickly, it's very common for people to go through deliberate overreaching phases before competitions, so that you are doing more volume than your body's able to recover from, and then what happens is when you taper and you drop the overall volume, not necessarily the intensity too much, a lot of people get that misconstrued, but if you drop the volume dramatically, what tends to happen is you get a rubber band effect or a supercompensation effect, and you tend to be able to perform a little better on the day. And by doing so, you're going to come up with little niggles here and there. I honestly have not been pain-free for maybe at least a year in some areas, whether it be my kind of elbows are a little bit niggly, or my shoulders or my hips. Never had any problems with my knees, but it's nothing it's nothing bad, it's nothing debilitating, it's nothing out of the ordinary. It's just little niggles, and I know that kind of once I kind of warm up and kind of get into maybe my first, second, third working set, it tends to kind of go away. And as long as I'm taking care of myself with my inversion table, contrast showers, applying Tiger Balm, doing a little bit of mobility, stretching, going to my chiropractor and having a sports massage, I know that I know what's debilitating, I know what's not, and I know that I am very well put together, and I'm very lucky with that. So I know that if I have a little bit of tendonitis, I usually just work through it because it's not a problem. But if it is absolutely debilitating, then I would suggest not doing what hurts it. So if you can deadlift, deadlift. If you can't squat, then squat. But unfortunately with tendonitis, truly the only way to get rid of tendonitis is complete rest. What I would maybe suggest is knee sleeves may help reduce it, Mark Bell's compression cuffs may help reduce it, so you can work around it that way, or you could take full time off, or you could just work through it. It's up to you. It depends how much this means to you and what you're willing to do. Personally, with me, I would never let tendonitis stop me from going through it. Is that intelligent? Is that maybe a bit of a stupid move? Maybe, potentially, but quite frankly, my performance on the platform and making sure I get there and perform the best I can means a little bit more to me than taking some time off and not doing certain exercises because of a little bit of pain. But again, that's me. If you don't want to do that, there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing with it. And remember, I'm a little bit stupid and probably not all there in the head, so take that for what you will. So yeah, you could kind of use stuff like the compression cuffs or knee sleeves to try and work around it. You could stop doing what hurts it, or you could just work through it. Opinion on bands, chains, deadlift blocks, etc. for improving weaknesses. I've never personally used bands, chains. I have used blocks and stuff like that. I've not necessarily really used that stuff, so I wouldn't say I'm necessarily that qualified to give an opinion on it. And personally, I mean, there's people that utilise it and do it, and it goes very well, such as my aesthetics and all of Simon and Garrett's clients. I know tend to do that stuff. I know Max Tuning does stuff like that. I know Tim Thibodeau does that. And I know that they make gains from that. However, I feel that a lot of people misinterpret weaknesses for a lack of positioning. A lot of people use deadlift as the easiest example. A lot of people tend to think that they're weak on lockout, when in reality they're sacrificing positioning for momentum, and then when they get to their knees, they're in a very, very sub-efficient and poor position, and because of that, they are not able to finish the lift. They then think that they have a very weak lockout, so they start doing rack lockouts and stuff like that, and they're very, 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 very strong in that. And then if you're able to pull more from the rack, then that suggests what lockout isn't weak, because you're starting in an efficient position. So what I would suggest is probably, in my opinion, and what I do with all my athletes and what I do with myself, is that necessarily the weaknesses aren't necessarily weaknesses, instead of it's a lack of proper positioning. So if you improve your positioning, by improving your positioning, all of a sudden the weakness no longer becomes a weakness. And on top of that, again, if you're a competitive powerlifter, sports specificity comes into things, and I feel that doing the movement with pure plate weight instead of band tension, I feel is probably going to carry over a little bit more onto the platform. So yeah, that's my opinion. Next, ever been injured? If not, how to stay injury free? I have had countless and ridiculous injuries in my life, surprisingly none from lifting. I have numerous, tons and tons and tons and tons. A couple, for example, when I was 7 years old, I fell down a kind of mid 30-foot cliff, snapped my jaw, knocked all my teeth out. A rock went through my chin and it came out my mouth, knocking all my teeth out in the process. I've got a scar here. I got hit by a car where I had a blood clot in my leg, kind of bent my femur a little bit. I snapped my clavicle or collarbone, tore all the tendons in that, dislocated the shoulder. I have had my left knee reconstructed. I've had my left knee reconstructed. I completely ruptured my ACL, partially tore my PCL, ripped my cartilage in half, bruised the bones, tore muscles around about there, misplaced my kneecap, all that good stuff. There's three that come to mind. I have fractured my nose a little bit, problems with lots and lots of stuff, but nothing has actually been from lifting. So I have been injured, not from lifting though, and if not, how to stay injury free? Lift correctly. Make sure you do recovery work. Seeing a chiropractor, I believe, is a good thing to do. Going to sports massage is a good thing to do. If not, your cheap options maybe, again, an inversion table. But overall, lifting smartly, lifting correctly, programming correctly, make sure you're bracing properly, and make sure you're doing your recovery work outside the gym, and make sure you're not lifting cold. And that's kind of all you can do. And last but not least, sports growing up. I originally played rugby, and then I went from rugby to football, and then I went from football to boxing. And then I was kind of doing boxing and football, and then I did that to my knee when doing football, and then after that I started coaching rugby for my local club, and then I went from coaching that to coaching boxing in primary schools. So I was basically the first ever coach to go into primary schools and basically coach kids boxing. So I did that, and then I moved to just lifting weights as a hobby to then doing powerlifting as a competitive sport. So yeah, that's today's Q&A over, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed these again. Leave your questions down below. I hope you're having a great weekend, and I'll speak to all of you guys next time.